Today is Wednesday, July 10th, and we are only a few days away from the Republican National Convention to be held in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm Tim Darnell, digital producer here at Atlanta News First and AtlantaNewsFirst.com. We're joined by our political reporter, Doug Reardon, who will be heading north to Milwaukee in just a few days, and we're covering all of today's recent political headlines and everything that's happening in the world of politics as it relates to Atlanta and Georgia here in 2024. Some of our top political headlines earlier this week: Fulton County Elections Chief Cathy Woolard unexpectedly and suddenly offered her resignation. First Lady Jill Biden was in Columbus, Georgia, only a couple of days ago. President Joe Biden continues to rally support for his reelection campaign, writing a letter to Congressional Democrats, and also holding a conference call with Democratic mayors of Democratic cities across the nation just less than 24 hours ago. And finally, as we said, the Republican National Convention will begin Monday in Milwaukee. That is expected to make Donald Trump the official Republican nominee for 2024 in this year's White House race. But Doug, we're starting off with something a little more close to home. We have a report from Patrick Quinn, one of our outstanding reporters here, on the resignation of Cathy Woolard as Fulton County Elections Chief. I want to go ahead and play that package, and then I want to circle back with you because you covered her initial appointment only several months ago. But let's listen to Patrick Quinn's package right now.
Fulton County Elections Chair is out. Cathy Woolard stepping down less than 4 months on the job. Woolard telling me in an email, quote, "It's been a pleasure serving as interim Board of Registration and Elections Chair at Fulton County. Despite all the noise you hear, the Fulton County Election Department does excellent work in one of the largest election operations in the country." Woolard has been serving as interim chair after former chair Patrice Perkins Hooker abruptly left to take the reins as Atlanta's city attorney.
I think it's frustrating.
Fulton County Commissioner Dana Barrett told me she was surprised Woolard did not stay on through November's general election.
She made it sound like she would stay until we replaced her, and that hasn't happened. And so for her to then sort of come forward and put a deadline on this was not something I anticipated.
Woolard's last day is July 25th. Both Woolard and Barrett said they have full confidence in the county election department as a whole, but Barrett recognized another change at the top is ammo for those already questioning the stability of the Fulton County election system.
No matter what we do now, we're going to have some doubt cast on us because we will have had 3 different board chairs over the course of this election cycle.
Barrett said the county must take its time to search, vet, and select a new chair, but she knows the clock is ticking until November's decisive election day.
There's a lot of questions about how we ended up here. And so, it's troubling, but it's not going to impact the department in doing their job.
Doug, we all know Cathy Woolard, former Atlanta City Councilwoman, the first openly gay person elected to the Atlanta City Council, came in as Fulton County Elections Chief right before the May 2024 primary. Were you surprised when you heard that she was resigning after only a couple of months?
Yes, for a couple of reasons. One, this just happened with the former elections chair Patrice Perkins Hooker. She left to be the Atlanta city attorney, and she was only a couple months into her tenure when she announced her resignation from this role as well. Cathy Woolard came in. It was kind of a Cathy Woolard sandwich with Patrice because she had served in that role before and after Patrice Perkins Hooker had as well, and they both, only months into their tenure, submitted their resignation. And we're coming up on a really important time here for Fulton County election staff because we obviously just got off a primary. We have a big general election coming up that's now just about 5 months away, less than that. And so someone's going to have to be at the helm here. The reason that Cathy Woolard was so appealing to the Board of Commissioners was because she didn't need that much training. They told us that straight up, that she could come in and hit the ground running because she had done this job job before, but now she's out the door, and you don't really have any prospects of people who have done this job in the recent past, because both of them were both Cathy Woolard and Patrice Perkins Hooker, and they're now out of the job. So I think someone needs to step up. Fulton County needs to find somebody very quickly so that they can get to know the staff, get to know the procedures before we have to conduct this general election in the state's largest county.
Now, what's going to be the actual procedure for finding a new Fulton County elections chief? Like you said, we're only a few months out of one of the most consequential presidential general elections in recent memory. Fulton County has obviously been a hotbed of controversy. It was back in 2020. It seems like this could just be another electoral powder keg, if you will, unless Fulton County moves pretty quickly to find someone very qualified to handle its elections process.
Yeah, they'll have to do it quick. And the thing about it is, they have a meeting today, and they will. We thought that they might be replacing Woolard today with a nomination and then a vote, as this process always works. But they are not going to. I just talked to Patrick, who did that initial story that we heard just a few minutes ago, and he said that they have no plans to nominate or replace Woolard today, and so their next meeting will not be until next month. So now you've whittled it down to 4 months. Also keep in mind that Fulton County kind of got reprimanded by the state elections board recently for not having copies of ballots that they should have had. It didn't change any electoral counts, but they certainly were lacking in a few areas of just the process of post-voting, that there's a lot of eyes on this Fulton County Elections Board, and there is nobody leading it right now. So I agree with you. They're going to have to act fast, but it probably won't be until next month when they can find someone to replace Woolard.
A lot of eyes on Fulton County, a lot of eyes on the state of Georgia. First Lady Jill Biden was in Columbus earlier this week and rallying support among Southwest Georgia Democrats for her husband, who just happens to be the 46th President of the United States, Joe Biden. Jill Biden has been a consistent supporter, naturally, of her husband and his reelection bid. And she was in Atlanta a couple of weeks ago accompanying the president after his now pretty much widely criticized debate performance in Atlanta when he was debating Donald Trump at CNN. She has been repeatedly saying, as she said in Columbus a couple of days ago, she is all in. You have covered the First Lady and her visits to Atlanta and Georgia before. What's your opinion? What's your take on how the First Lady is attempting to rally support behind the president?
Well, she is one of his staunchest surrogates here in Georgia. The president has sent, I think, the First Lady and his Vice President Kamala Harris here a total of over 10 times. So we're now in double digits for those two women visiting the state to stump on behalf of the president. And so no surprise that he sent her and dispatched her again to Columbus this weekend because, of course, that is also one of those areas that, like Fulton County, like Atlanta, does have the opportunity for a lot of blue voters, some who may be on the fence right now. And so that was a good move, I think, by President Biden to make sure that they held a rally there, had a presence there after this really not great debate performance that obviously has gotten a lot of attention. And then the First Lady noting that he was all in. That is, of course, something that Joe Biden has said, but it always helps for people to hear it in person. And so that was the message that the First Lady brought with her. She's been here a handful of times to Atlanta, but getting her out in other parts of the state that are kind of outside this blue bastion of Fulton County, I think is really important. And you'll probably see a whole lot more of it in the next couple of weeks and months.
You mentioned the phrase all in. We've heard that consistent message out of the White House. Biden is all in. U.S. Congressman James Clyburn was exiting yesterday from a meeting of Congressional Democrats with the president. His only comment coming out of that meeting was, "We're riding with Biden." So we're going to hear all in, riding with Biden quite a bit. And the president yesterday or 2 days ago sent a letter to Congressional Democrats saying that it's time to, quote unquote, end the drama over his reelection bid. And also last night, late Tuesday night, we confirmed that the president held a conference call with the Democratic Mayors Association. This is a group of Democratic elected mayors across the United States of U.S. major cities. We did not at first know whether or not Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens was on that call. Turns out that he was, and you're going to be talking with the mayor later today, as I understand.
Yeah, I want to know what was said on that call, and I want to know how he plans to enlist mayors at the hyper-local level to kind of shore up his support among voters. That was kind of the point of yesterday's call, and to be fair, I am kind of putting the onus on that one on Dickens's campaign staff, political communications staff, because they told us he was not going to be on that call, and then we woke up this morning to a tweet saying that he was, so we did report that yesterday. Just want to get that out of the way. But we are going to get a chance to speak to him today, and like I said, I want to know what Biden said to these mayors to enlist their help at the city level and at the town level, because that's kind of where you get a lot of this grassroots support is going to be from people who can message directly to constituents at that local level. So we'll ask Dickens what was said. We're going to ask him where he stands on his support for the president. He's enjoyed a very comfy relationship with the White House and their administration in the last 3 years. There have been opportunities for him to go to the White House. Just a couple weeks ago, he tweeted a video of him and the president in the Oval Office. He has been at almost every single welcome committee when one of these, either the president himself or one of his surrogates like the vice president or the first lady has arrived in Atlanta. And so they certainly have a good relationship, the Dickens administration with the Biden-Harris administration. And so I'm hoping that we can get something out of him today as far as how that administration plans to enlist the help of local mayors.
Now, President Biden is also hosting a summit of NATO leaders in Washington at a time when the focus should be on solving foreign crises and foreign policy. Instead, the president is fighting a dual domestic battle over his reelection bid. We have this report from our CBS national desk.
Well, you have to convince NATO that you're up for the job.
President Joe Biden leaving Pennsylvania defiant in the face of questions about whether he's fit to serve another term. The president saying he's up for the job, even as members of his own party push for him to bow out of the 2024 race.
We got a lot to do, folks, but we can do it.
On the ground, the president got support from the state's Democratic governor and 2 U.S. senators.
I am proud to stand right here next to this president right now.
But over the weekend, more House Democrats publicly called on Mr. Biden to step aside. And CBS News has learned that during a virtual meeting Sunday, at least 4 senior House Democrats said the president should end his bid for re-election. That's according to one person on the call and 3 others familiar with the meeting.
He's done wonderful stuff, but it's time for him to leave.
The party should stand up, stand behind him.
President Biden has a jam-packed week hosting the NATO summit in Washington, during which he'll also hold his first solo U.S. news conference in several months. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Coming back out in 3, 2, 1. Finally, Doug, you are headed within just a couple of days to Milwaukee, Wisconsin for the Republican National Convention. It's going to be a 4-day coronation. We expect we can call him right now the presumptive Republican White House nominee, who just happens to be the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. What are you going to be covering, and what do you expect to come out of the convention, which begins Monday, July 15th?
Yeah, and we'll be there Sunday night, too, just kind of showing people around. It's an exciting time, certainly. We can all but suspect that Donald Trump will be named the nominee. He has the delegates. He has the support of the party, and so probably no surprises there. I think there are a couple things that we're going to be trying to look for and bring to you in our coverage, and one of those things is going to be, what impact does this have to Georgia? We know Governor Brian Kemp's going to be there. We've already got some time set up with him, so we're going to be talking to him about what he wants to get out of this convention. The other big thing, too, is we want to meet some of these delegates who are going to be casting their their votes, their electoral power for Donald Trump. Who are the people, who are your neighbors who are going to be going and participating in this process? We're going to be speaking to some of them too, and I'm very much looking forward to it because a lot of times these conventions are kind of shrouded. People since the 70s haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to them because we have primaries now. Things are determined well ahead of time. So I hope this really peels back the curtain for a lot of people as to how these work, why they're important, and what goes on at them. The other big thing too, obviously, besides the party's platform, which was pared down from about 60 pages 4 years ago to 16 pages this year, really tailored down, is who the former president is going to pick to be his running mate. There are a ton of names right now in the fray, some that make more sense than others to different people for different reasons, but we have no idea who he's going to pick, and he certainly has been pretty tight-lipped about not indicating who that might be, but we suspect to know by the end of next week who is going to be on the ticket with Donald Trump, and again, there are some really familiar names to people, so we'll keep a close eye on that. We suspect that might come as early as Wednesday in this convention.
Now, we will be following the Republican National Convention here on our YouTube stream and other streaming platforms from Atlanta News First every day, Monday through Thursday of next week, and possibly it's Friday as well. We'll be having a special political update stream from 11 a.m. until noon, recapping the events of the evening before and giving our viewers and listeners some expectation about what will be happening later that evening in prime time. And so please keep an eye and an ear out for all of Doug Reardon's reports live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin for the Republican National Convention beginning on Monday, July 15th, running all through next week. Also, keep abreast of every development happening in the nation's most dynamic political state, that being the state of Georgia, here on Political Update from Atlanta News First, not only on our streaming platforms, but wherever you listen and watch your podcast. Thanks for joining us.